Hi there, and I am Michael, the founder, owner, and the materials writer for all of your lessons at the 7-step system to pass the TOEFL IBT. And you are also one of my students in the English language program. And let's take a look. So you're writing 3 specific paragraphs. So one of your paragraphs, you're writing about the present tense, and you're creating a paragraph focusing around that. In another paragraph, you're focusing, the one I'm looking at right here, on the past tense, and then the final paragraph is focusing on the future. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one right now. So let's see if I have to make any changes here. So first thing I'm going to say, when I was child, and because child is a count noun, I'll say a child, my dream was to work, I would say, at the Tripoli airport. So in this case, you needed to put a verb. You need a verb in the main part of the sentence, right? Work is not really the verb. You're using this more as an infinitive. So my dream was to work at the Tripoli airport. When I finished high school, I started to work. I want to use an infinitive again. And you might want to write these down as I make corrections. Take notes, and this tells you the different kinds of things that you want to work on more. For example, you want to make sure you understand how to use infinitives. I started to work at the airport, but I remembered something. You want to say here that. You need that adjective clause connector so that you create that complex sentence. But I remembered something that happened on the first day when I entered the coquette. And I'm not sure what that means there. You entered something, right? I don't know. I'm just going to say XX. We don't know what it means. Period. You say, I wanted to give I would probably say I wanted to give the actual load. Now wait a minute, you can do this. You're using what's called indirect object shift. So you're saying I wanted to give, so if you do actual load after pilot, then you say wanted to give the pilot the actual load for that flight until he, you want to make this past tense, till he gave me block full because I could not speak. And I don't know what that means. So I'm just going to, so I can't really correct it. So unfortunately, your meaning is not entirely clear there. So I'll just put question marks after that. You say because I could not speak maybe English. You can say I just knew technical Okay, now here's where we're running into some trouble. So we have to try to figure out here who is saying what, right? So typically when you introduce a speaker in something like this, you can start a new paragraph and say he told me, then you have to put commas here, capital here, please can I go inside? Or actually told me, I would say he asked me, please, can I go inside the airport. And then because this is what you're saying, I said, what? So we're changing speakers there. I would say instead of told here, he asked me again, and I said, yes, and that we had cargo and mail. And this doesn't have to be, you don't have to quote everything. So we can say here, he asked me what I meant. Maybe if you want to say, you might want to say matter or issue. He spoke about that matter, and I spoke about another thing. After that, he laughed a lot. So you included some quotes in there, right? So I was trying to show you how you can do that. Okay, I think we can make a few more changes here. Okay, he asked me again, and I said yes, and that we had cargo and mail. He asked me what I meant. He spoke about that matter. I spoke about another thing. After that, he laughed a lot. And then the only reason I would capitalize he, if you're using it to refer to deity. So if you're talking about God and say, and then he said, and he means God, I definitely would capitalize he. But in all other cases, I think you need to use lower caps for your pronouns. And then I would just say he told me to please call my supervisor. And this is when you have to end the sentence here. Now you got a new sentence. Well, my supervisor came he spoke with him, and also he spoke about and laughed with him. Because my supervisor spoke English well, and I asked him what had happened. So you're using, and see if I can explain this. You're saying I asked him, which is something that you're reporting. You're reporting what you said in the past using past tense. I asked him what had happened. I'm using past perfect because the one action occurs before the other past action. Okay, I think we're good here. He said you did not understand him, and he gave me an explanation. He told me that I had You've used the word misunderstood. So he told me that I had misunderstood him. Then you might say here, then I also stayed laughed. You can't use two different verbs here, so that's not going to work. So we got to get run here. I'm going to say then I also laughed. Maybe stop it there, and then you have your new sentence. I was very shy about that. After that, instead of you don't really take a decision, you make a decision. So I made a decision that I must learn English, and then say this, which is why I am here. You could certainly say something like that. Okay, let's take a look at it one more time. So, when I was a child, my dream was to work at the Tripoli airport. When I finished high school, I started to work at the airport, but I remembered something that happened on the first day when I entered the blank. I wanted to give the pilot the actual load for that flight until it gave me block full because I could not speak English. I just knew technical aviation language. He asked me, "Please, can I go inside the airport?" I said, "What?" He asked me again, and I said yes, and that we had cargo and mail. He asked me what I meant. He spoke about that matter, and I spoke about another thing. Let's change this to past perfect. After that, he laughed a lot, and then he told me to please call my supervisor. When my supervisor came, he spoke and laughed with him. Because my supervisor spoke English well and I asked him what had happened, he told me that I had misunderstood him. Maybe, how about this? This is going to make it a little bit better here. Let's take this. Watch what I'm doing. Pay attention. So I'm going to put this present participle at the beginning of the sentence, explaining to me in the Arabic language. He told me that I had misunderstood him. Then I also laughed. I was very shy. How about all the confusions? Probably a little bit better word, because that kind of explains what you're saying. After that, I made a decision that I must learn English, which is why I'm here. All right, so I got it. So what can we say about your writing right now? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being perfect, pretty much no problems, good control of your language use, including your sentence structure and your verb tenses. On this one, I'm going to put you at about 6 out of 10. So in the previous 2 paragraphs that I read that you wrote, the future tense, I gave you a score of 8 out of 10 points. And in the paragraph on the present tense, I gave you 7 out of 10 points. Right, so then, if we look at these, so we have 9 points total, so this is going to put you at 21 points out of 30, which equals, so if we go to the calculator, this is going to put you at 70% out of 100 on this verb tense final exam. So what can we say here? What I can say here, you know I'm direct and I'm honest, right? I'm not going to tell you a lie or anything like that. You've worked very hard. You really have. You're a great student. You've done everything that you could, but you just have not gotten to the level of graduate study English yet. You're just not there yet. I don't know how else to say, how else to tell you. If you looked at this particular paragraph, you're not very comfortable quoting information. You're not sure where to put the commas or the quotation marks. You're not even sure about your vocabulary. And for example, the word blockful, I'm not even sure what you were trying to say there. So again, there's another word I wasn't quite sure about. So you're just not comfortable yet at the highest level of English abilities. If you look at your Michigan test report that I gave you today, your English right now, that's a basic English proficiency test, and you scored 34 points out of 100 on that. So based on your speaking, based on the writing that you've done in my class, you're just not exactly where you need to be yet. So you need a lot more exposure to the language. You really do. A lot more reading practice, a lot of vocabulary study. And the good news is you actually have some free time now. So if I were you, and remember, you don't need a tutor to do this. You actually have access to my online TOEFL course. It has vocabulary, pronunciation. There is grammar practice. You can practice your listening, reading, writing, and speaking. It has everything that you need to improve your TOEFL or your academic English language abilities. My best for you. I'm not saying this right. My recommendation for you is I would study super hard, take the TOEFL exam, score 80 or 81, and then you can get into any graduate program pretty well anywhere in the United States. But it's really a disservice for you to try to enter a graduate program at this point. You just simply don't have the English abilities yet. I'm not saying you're a bad student, nothing like that. You're a very good student, but for whatever reason, you have not mastered, I think, the English language at this point. All right, so your goal here is I would take the TOEFL exam maybe in a few weeks. So you can get into a routine where you're studying maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, really work hard. I think vocabulary and grammar, those are 2 areas that you can really start to spend some time on. I think it'll really help you and give you some really good results in the future. Also, think about it. Reading every day, reading newspapers, reading magazines, reading books, and whatever you do, don't translate. Absolutely. Remember, I've told you about this. Don't make any translations into your first language. It's not helping your English skills, as you can see. It only hurts you at this point. You have to get used to thinking, writing, speaking, listening, reading in English without any translation at all. That's the only way you're going to reach that very, very high level of academic English proficiency. Okay, anyway, thank you very much, and have a great day.